we can use those derivatives to minimize our risk, to reduce our risk. And especially which kind of risk? Of course, exchange rate risk. So what is exchange rate risk? So when we want to pay in other currency, that currency goes up. Or when we receive the currency, international currency or foreign currency, the value go down. So we receive lesser home currency at the end, right? So this is exchange rate risk. Okay. So let's move on. And here we go. Our first learning objective, how we can use forward contract to speculate and to hedge exchange rate risk. So first of all, let's go deep into the understanding of forward contract. Its definition again, a forward contract is an agreement. It's agreement, and in the eyes of law, agreement is obligation, and obligation is you need to fulfill it, and you need to basically you must fulfill this agreement. All right, so it means one party cannot run from its responsibility or agreement or obligation. If they do that, then they would be penalized. A huge fine going to be impacted on them, because this can be challenged by the law, or you can have a lawsuit, or you can go to court. Right? So a forward contract is an agreement between a corporation and a financial institution. So you can ask me, sir, a forward contract can also be between two individuals. Yes, right? Because we are learning this derivative with respect to MNC, multinational corporation, with corporation, bigger companies or bigger corporations perspective, so that here is, we have the parties are MNC and banks, financial institutions that offer this derivative services as well. Okay, but you can also, as an individual, you can also do that. All right. So don't get just confused, because this chapter, the reading material, is written with perspective of a company. So you can also replace that company with individual, right? Like managing your own business, multinational, links as well. Whether you should import from where country, where the raw material is cheaper, you would sell your product to that company, that country, where you can find a better rate, where you can sell at a higher rate, right? In that cases, you need to manage the currency exchange rate risk. All right. So we use the derivatives, and derivatives can be used for two purposes: speculation and reducing the risk, or hedging purposes. Right? Okay. So we just talked about a forward contract is an agreement or is an obligation between two parties, corporation and financial institution in this case. First of all, the forward contract include exchange of a specified amount of currency, that how much currency you can exchange after some time. It means it can be after some time. So there's going to be a time T. Of course, there's going to be a negotiated rate, agreed upon negotiating rate. We call this forward rate. So it means it's a contract. A contract means obligation between buyer and seller. And that is obligation. And after some time, zero, it means initiation of the contract, and this is time T. In between, the validity of the obligation is still time T, and there's going to be a defined rate that at time t, we will be having our transaction with this rate. So no matter how much is the spot rate at this time, you don't care about that. And how much is the spot rate here at time 0, you even don't care about that, because this is obligation and you must follow this rate. So a forward contract can be sold and can be purchased. If you purchase a forward contract, it means you are a buyer, right? You become a buyer. Let me change the color of the pencil here. You will become buyer, right? You will buy from seller at time t. For example, 90 days. After 90 days, you will buy at this rate from the seller. And if you sell the forward contract, then you become seller and the other party going to be buying from you at forward rate. All right. So remember, a forward contract can be bought or can be sold. When you buy a forward contract, your intention is that after some time, you will buy the currency. The other party going to be called seller of the currency. But when you sell the forward contract, it means you will sell after time t to the buyer. So guys, are we clear? Because this is very important. So let me ask one by one. Rujier, understand? PD, you understand? Lancelot?
Yes.
Rujier, Oliver, Tiffany?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Well done. So let's see its uses. So uses of the forward contracts, number one, hedging purposes. And what do we talked about hedge? Hedge mean reducing the risk. So how can we use to reduce, how can we use the forward contract to reduce our risk? Number one. So we can use forward contract to hedge our imports by locking in the rate at which they can obtain the currency. So it means we are locking the rate of currency exchange. Rate means currency rate, right? At time t. So no matter what will be the rate in the market at that time or what is now at this time, we have no concern about the rate. We will be finalizing our deal at the end of the time t. That's it. So it means you don't worry about currency exchange rate movements. All you need to do worry about your business operations. So MNCs use the forward contracts to hedge their imports, right? Because MNCs need to buy raw material and pay money in the foreign currency, right? And they are worried about that whether the foreign currency may appreciate, because companies for most primary responsibility is to minimize the cost of production, right? As a company manager, operation manager, or company's biggest objective is to minimize the cost so that they can increase the profit. In economics, we talked about that, right? What is the profit formula is? Profit is equal to total revenue minus total cost. We talked about in economics that up to certain up to certain extent we can control our revenue, but we cannot majority of the revenue because it depends on demand. Because sales depend on demand and demand depends on buyer, while the total cost depends on seller. It has nothing to do with the buyer. So how you can increase profit? You have two ways. Either you can increase the total revenue, right? We talked about that. Even increasing the total revenue, we have different cost structures, we can also increasing our total cost. So it means by selling more doesn't mean that you will enjoy more profit. You can enjoy more sales, but you cannot enjoy more profit. And then we talked about profit maximizing condition. That is, you need to produce where your total cost is minimum. So we will focus this point to minimize our costs so that our profit would be maximum. Same concept is here. The MNCs, they want to pay for their purchases. So they want to pay lower. What is the formula? Is that buy low, sell high. All right. Your selling price is high, your cost is low, so we'll have a bigger profit. All right. So when MNCs, their prime motive is to sell their products, and when they are selling, they need to buy raw material. So since they are MNCs, multinational, so they will buy raw material to which country where the raw material is cheaper. All right. So when they buy over there, normally the international trade takes 3 months. 1 month, some countries, the raw material is coming at 1 month, 15 days, 45 days, 60 days, 75 days, 90 days, right? So in 90 days, maximum time, rate can change, or abnormally the rate can change. So all of their planning just maybe, may go wrong. When their cost of production is so high, so they cannot make profit because they cannot control the price. If you increase the price, law of demand activate, price increase, quantity demanded decrease, right? So they are very focusing or very much focused on their cost of imported raw material. So they lock their rate. So that's why we use the terminology lock the rate. So no matter how much the price movement in 3 months, they don't have to worry about that. All right. Then they just plan to buy their imports, do their costing, because that is none of their business. Forex is none of their business. Forex means foreign exchange market is none of their business. Their business is to buy cheaper raw material, convert it into final product and sell it. All right. So now they are carefree or worry less about the currency exchange rate movement. So this is called hedging. Now everyone, you understand?
Yep.
Good. So we'll see practical example as well. Just gonna give you here the idea. Now bid ask spread. So sometimes, for example, name the biggest country, for example, Nestle. It is doing business almost all over the country, all over the world. So if Nestle is doing business in Venezuela, and Venezuela is Venezuelan peso. So every country recognize are dealing with the Venezuelan pesos? No. All right. So in order to do this kind of stuff, remember, Nestle would definitely go to use forward contract. Why? Because bid ask spread is wider for less liquid currencies, because this is not widely acceptable currency.